All right, here we are, episode 5 of the Access podcast. Welcome, Mark. So for everyone that's listening or watching, we've got Mark Field. He owns the place, so the managing director of Access Recognised Training. So thanks for your time today, Mark, and thanks for this setup. It's pretty mad. So
no, you're welcome, Andre, and mate, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
You've done a fantastic job, really, to get to where we are here. We've obviously been big fans of this long form conversation format, mate.
Yep.
Whether it's listening to Joe Rogan back in the day, and obviously Joe Rogan's so popular now, mate. Maybe one day you could get to, even if you got to 10% of him, mate. You've done incredibly well.
What would that be? That'd be $10 million, right?
Yeah, something like that, mate. Something like that. A year.
Yeah.
But I think he has about 12 million people listen to each episode. So that's
easy.
There you go. So you got a goal now. But obviously to all the others, mate. Back in the day, I mean, Jordan Peterson. Obviously, he's been quite influential. He does some great stuff there as well.
Yep.
Dave Rubin.
Yep.
Obviously Ben Shapiro, guys like that have really opened our eyes to the world.
Yep.
And this is the great thing about podcasts.
Yep.
And that access to that information and getting all different viewpoints. That's really important, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that. When I was going through my apprenticeship and sort of working a lot of hours and wasn't really hanging around with anybody except my work crew. That's when the Joe Rogan podcast sort of first started. So this was maybe 2009 or something like that, and that was like part of my socialization. It was the episodes would come out maybe like Monday morning or Monday sort of mid morning or something like that. So I'd sort of wait, and that's because that usually would be my day off.
Yeah,
and then it was like hanging out with mates. So but. Yeah. So
it's really important, I think, that you get those other viewpoints, and there's I think this was from Jordan Peterson. As one of the things that he said was, assume that the person that you're talking to knows something that you don't.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you hate the person, don't agree with anything they say. There's something in there.
Yeah.
That you can take, that you can apply to your own life.
Yep.
To make it better. And that's always that message that comes out of a lot of the podcasts. It's about, becoming the best version of yourself that you can.
Yep.
It's really important, from obviously a professional and personal level.
Yep. Yeah. And I guess maybe just a quick disclaimer, this is not like explicit advice, we're just informational purposes only. We haven't considered your personal circumstances unless it's in the context of your vocational training. So, I guess a bit of background on you, Mark. So you're the managing director of Access Recognised Training.
Yep.
So what is Access? How did we get here? And we'll start there.
Yeah, well, look, it's been a long journey.
Yeah.
But I mean, first thing, Access is that we're a specialised hospitality training business.
Yep.
We're a registered training organisation.
Yep.
So it means that we're obviously registered by the government to be able to deliver vocational-based education. So that's from, Cert 2 level all the way through to advanced diploma level.
Yep.
But also we certainly do a lot of short hospitality courses like responsible service of alcohol, responsible conduct of gambling, those types of courses, food safety supervisor as well, and we offer them both online and face-to-face delivery formats, and that's important too. I mean, we're the only provider in the ACT that can do that.
Yep.
And that's certainly been something that we've really strived for at Access, is to be number one in that hospitality space, training space, here in the ACT.
Yep.
When we first started, we had a lot of competitors, probably 7 or 8 competitors in the market. And it was tough. It was certainly challenging, and we certainly had to rise above and provide very consistent quality. Level of training, and
so like not to smell our own farts, but like, what do you think the difference was? Why are we still here? And
look, I think it was our commitment to Canberra, commitment to the ACT, and I think our networks as well. I mean, I been in hospitality all my career,
Yep.
and I'd built up a lot of strong networks and relationships, and
Yep.
that's so important in anyone's career to do that. And once you build those relationships, you can then go out and I guess draw from them and be able to build your business, and that's what we're able to do. Build that trust, build that loyalty, but that's on the back of quality, customer service, and that's one thing that when you work in hospitality, you understand that intuitively, don't you? That's all about customer, and it doesn't matter what type of business you're in. It's understanding that and understanding what your customer needs and giving them what they want. So we were able to do that, I think, and there was a lot of competitors that we had actually that were interstate training providers.
Yep.
And when you're an interstate training provider, I mean, they might send a representative here, every couple of months or something.
Yeah.
To catch up with trainees and apprentices, and it's just not enough. I mean, we learnt very early on that the success of our programs meant that we needed to be in the workplace regularly.
Yeah.
And we needed to be catching up face to face with our trainees, with our apprentices, and obviously with the employer.
Yep.
And that's one thing that we learnt very quickly as well, is the employer is one of the most important people in the puzzle.
Yes.
Especially how we deliver our training, which is a work-based training method.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not. I don't think they're big things.
Yeah.
And that's what customer service is, but isn't it? I mean, it's 100 little things, isn't it?
Yes.
That come together
Yep.
to make that success. So, and that was, we started Access, 2008. Before that, I was still doing a bit of training-based stuff.
Yep.
Which I really enjoyed.
Yep.
But and wanted to take that further.
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunity came up, to start Access. So
Yeah. Did the GFC have any implications on that at the time?
no.
Yeah.
No, none whatsoever. I mean, we live in Canberra, mate. We live in it's the Canberra bubble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, there was obviously people impacted by it, but most of those people were actually a lot older.
Yeah. Okay.
Your baby boomer sort of thing that were more impacted by that. So I mean, it was interesting. I mean, go back to where it sort of first began.
Yeah.
And it's well before Access, and when I was just starting my hospitality career.
Yeah, actually, that was what I was going to sort of pull you up. And so if we get you had like a pretty sort of like long journey in hospitality, starting at the entry level and getting to a very senior position in a club. So maybe if you could start by telling us how'd you get into it? Why'd you get into it? And then just tell us your journey.
Absolutely. So, look, I'd already made the decision that I wanted to pursue hospitality when I was at school.
Yeah.
And I'm originally from the country, from a small town called Forbes. And certainly a big shout out to all the people of Forbes at the moment, and Yagara as well.
You bet.
The floods have been really bad, so certainly sending our love and support to that township. That are still struggling. And look, as we speak, the floodwaters aren't receding very quickly. They're still staying right up there. So all the best, guys. But I think coming from a country town, you've got that old country style customer service. And I think I was born with that. I don't know. I've always been a people person.
Yep.
I had family that had a pub in Forbes.
Yep.
And I was fortunate to do a bit of work there.
Yep.
Really enjoyed it. And sort of said to myself, well, this is what I want to pursue. I want to own a pub at some point in my life. That was a very early goal of mine, actually.
Yep.
Is
it still a goal?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I've certainly It sort of transformed from a pub into going, obviously, into the training business. I mean, I wanted to be a small business owner.
Yes.
I wanted to be the boss,
Yeah.
That was, and it didn't really matter too much what that was at the
okay.
It was what opportunities were there.
Yeah.
Is there still a chance that we might go into, an actual hospitality enterprise? And absolutely. That's an option. There's always going to be opportunities, and it's about putting yourself in that position to be able to take those. So we're in a pretty strong position now. So who knows, Andre, what's around the corner there? But So,
And sorry to pull you up again. So, like a vocational career, like hospitality against university. So, like your brother's an accountant, so I suspect he went straight to uni or something like that? Or?
Yeah, my brother's an accountant, my sister's a lawyer, and I poured beer. So
so why?
Well, I mean, I guess at the time too there was
Or more, why not uni? Sort of
yeah. So I mean, hospitality and tourism, there was a lot of buzz around at the time. It was the big growth area.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of young people that wanted to move in there. It was really interesting. I mean, it was when I was leaving school, you had to get a higher mark, a HSC mark, to get into tourism than to get into accountancy.
Yeah, right.
So
what was the score? Was that TER back then?
Well, it was probably TER, something like that. So it was really interesting. But I mean, I'd already been accepted actually into CIT down here in Canberra.
Yeah, okay.
That was in year 11.
Yep.
Which was interesting. So I thought, oh, well, I'm sorted. I probably didn't apply myself as much as I should have going into year 12, but I still did what I had to do.
Yep.
And obviously came down to Canberra.
Yep.
And that was 1992. Mm-hmm. Started obviously studying, but also trying to find a work in hospitality back then was very different. The primary reason is because we were going into a recession.
Yeah, okay.
Which was great. Start my career, move out of year 12, and we move into a recession.
Do you see any parallels with what they're talking about now? Heading into a recession.
No, not really. I mean, it was the competition to get a gig, get a job in hospitality back then was immense.
Yeah.
Now it's very different.
Yes. Yeah.
you can almost walk into any establishment now and get a job.
Yeah.
So and I mean, even getting into to CIT was difficult. I mean, there was an interview process. There was probably 130 domestic students that went into the advanced diploma in hospitality. So it wasn't a lay down was there that you were even going to get into that course. So so it was very, very different times. But anyway, I was fortunate enough to get a job at a local club. Probably it took me a good 3 or 4 months in which to do that. But I got that, and that was fantastic. It really opened my eyes to the opportunities within clubs at that time.
Wait, sorry, did you say 4 months to get a job?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was trying all the time because I had to get a job.
Yeah, I think Pete had a similar story of.
Well, same time, mate.
Yeah,
same times. So and he was Pete was fortunate because it was the opening of Parliament House. There was lots of job opportunities that he had there. But so it took some time. But one of the things that I realised is the opportunities that existed within a licensed club.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. They were massive. They were really big organisations, and so many opportunities. Whether it was through food and beverage, or whether it was through gaming, or human resource functions, conferencing. There were so many paths there that you could take, and so I saw, wow, this has got some great opportunities. So I certainly set about learning as much as I possibly could about how the business ran.
Yeah.
And the point obviously behind that was that the goal was still always there. I want to do this myself one day.
Yeah,
I want to do this myself one day. So the more that I can learn, the better it is for me, and the more employment prospects that I'll get within that organisation too.
Yep.
Or within Clubland generally.
Yep.
And obviously I was studying hospitality as well, so it aligned perfectly with my studies, and that was obviously another really good motivator as well.
Yeah.
To start, you learn stuff and you'd be able to apply it straight away.
Yep.
But this was my career. I was committed to it.
Yeah.
So that matter it is quite different, obviously now for a lot of young people that just have a hospitality job.
Yeah.
It's not their career path.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually one of my questions there. So, what do you think the value, of staying in a position is? Into you know what I mean? The sort of being patient.
Oh, absolutely, mate.
Because it seems to be like a common attitude that I've observed. I think is sort of looking over too far over the horizon, sort of thing, but wanting to get there like straight away.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt that young people are now in a hurry for things to happen, and I think that's a factor of life as well, because life moves so quick now.
Yeah.
And that's technology that's driven that.
Yeah.
So I completely understand why they're like that. When I first started, gee whiz, computers were only really just coming into the workplace.
Yes.
No one had phones.
Yeah.
None of that stuff. So I've certainly experienced so much change over my career to date. I guess my experience is quite interesting too, because I got into hospitality as well because I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world.
Yeah.
And what happened when I was certainly at the club, these opportunities kept coming up.
Yeah.
To progress.
Yeah.
And it's like, gosh, I'm here.
Yeah.
Here's the opportunity. It's sort of fits in with my goals.
Yep.
I should be taking this. So I did that. So I ended up staying. My first employer, I stayed for 13 years.
Yeah. Okay.
But I was able to learn pretty much every facet of the business.
Yep.
I went through, obviously from F&B, as you mentioned there before, a glassy. That was my first gig, and mate, I was a glassy, believe it or not, for about a year.
Yep.
Because you had to wait in turn back then.
Yep.
And so now, you basically come in and you're doing everything.
Yeah. So within the job role of being a glassy, was there were you striving to be like the best you could in that context?
Oh, absolutely, because it was competitive, mate. It was competitive back then, and you had to win shifts basically. They weren't handed to you. It was based on performance. And you
How
had.
did they measure performance of a glassy? Like just quick?
Mate, absolutely. Efficiency, that was a big one.
Yeah.
But making sure that the place was clean.
Yeah.
And constantly moving, constantly, cleaning stuff up and helping also out, obviously, the bartenders there as well.
Yep.
That was obviously important too. But some of the stuff, this is back in the day where you could smoke inside.
Yeah.
So one of the first jobs I had, in fact, the very first thing that I did, apart from cleaning up spew, I think on my first shift, ashtrays. Yeah, so I was doing an ashtray run.
Yep.
So basically, you had a bucket.
Were they the spinny ones? You press them and they're like
No. They're just standard, just standard.
The glass
ashtray,
ones?
yeah. And you'd go around. You'd just have a cloth, which was like damp cloth, and then you'd walk around, grab the ashtray, tip all the butts into the bucket, and then you'd give it a quick clean out.
Yeah.
And you put it back.
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, you've got someone, for example, playing a pokey who's smoking away, waiting for you to put it back down so they could ash out, or they'll ash on your back or something, blow smoke all over you.
Yep.
I certainly did my fair share of passive smoking back in the day. So I was very, very pleased that obviously indoor smoking was banned. But I can remember actually waking up after shifts and stuff, and my voice was really croaky, really hoarse, and that was all that passive smoking that I'd taken in the night before. So hopefully that hasn't done too much long term.
So how did you avoid a smoking habit in those times?
Mate, everyone smoked back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Even in the sort of tail end of, I caught the tail end of the era when everyone was a smoker.
So I think one of the things is I was very sporty.
Yeah.
And I always like to keep myself healthy, and I ran as well.
Yeah. How'd you fit that into a hospitality career?
Well, it actually worked well, mate.
Yep.
Because you could plan it. You're at the time it was difficult, I guess, to fit in the sport, especially commit to a sport.
Yeah.
I love rugby union.
Yep.
But to play rugby union, you had to train a couple of nights a week. Plus, then you're playing on a Saturday, and so that was tough. That was some of the sacrifices you have to make.
Yeah.
your career, and that's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
important too. That you got to make those sacrifices.
Yep.
You know, and cricket was another one. I mean, I love cricket, but I just couldn't commit to cricket. But that was just what it was. My career was more important at the time.
Yeah.
I was never going to play for Australia playing cricket.
Yeah.
Or the Wallabies playing rugby union. I was never going to make a career out of it. So, yes, it was fun. It was enjoyable, but it wasn't the priority.
Yep.
You know, so anyway, I mean, with Ains, it was interesting too because I can remember, and I was able to progress reasonably quickly after I sort of got my first supervisory role, which was great. I was able to move into some other areas. I moved into an area of marketing promotions, which was a sort of an interest of mine at the time.
Yep. Is that where you wrote the jingle?
Yeah.
If anyone remembers,
the Ainsley jingle,
is that the everyone's a winner?
It's all happening.
It's all happening.
Everyone's a winner. Yeah, which I eventually had to change because you can't imply that everyone's a winner. You see.
Yeah.
So
did you literally you just wrote the lyrics, or did you actually had the phrasing or something, or what?
Yeah. Well, basically, I did use a jingle company as well.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
I put the what I wanted to be sort of in it, and then they put that together. And it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was really fun. It was a lot of fun doing that. I mean, being involved with marketing. But mind you, that didn't really happen until a little bit later. I mean, when I first went into it, we were working with an advertising agency, and I sort of was thinking, well, what's the point of me being here if all my job is just to ring the advertising agency and say, well, this is what we want to do, and they do it. It's like, well, it seems a bit pointless. So I remember hitting 25 and. I probably had a bit of a quarter life crisis. I was a bit lost. I didn't really know where my career was heading at that point.
Yeah.
And it was like, do I need to move on?
Yeah.
From where I was. Just that's a rookie error, Andre.
That's all right. This is real life. We can do what we want. This is the internet.
Yeah, that's right, mate. That's right. So. Yeah, it's interesting. That was actually a phone call from a guy that I used to work with.
Oh yeah,
at the club. Funny. I was a little bit directionless at that time. I needed some guidance, and I just.
How long did that last?
Well, I don't know. It was probably about 6 months, and but I wasn't really in a position yet to leave.
Yep.
I mean, I'd obviously completed all my vocational studies, and I'd just started some university stuff.
Yep.
So I went to advanced diploma in hospitality. Then it was an opportunity to go on to do your diploma. Your bachelor of tourism.
Yes. Okay.
So I took that up,
and your vocational qualification sort of gave you credit into the uni course?
Absolutely it did. Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely. So it was half. So
cool.
thought the view at the time was, well, I've gone half the way. I want to go all the way.
Yeah.
Especially if this is my career.
Yep.
And the importance of education. So anyway, at that time there was a change in senior management at the club. So there was a new CEO came on. And the outgoing manager sort of approached me and said, listen, this is what's going to happen, but this new fella's, you're probably going to spend a lot more time with this new fella. I've already had a chat with him about you, and I thought, okay, right, well, let's wait and see, give this a go.
Yeah.
Anyway, he started, and very quickly we got rid of the advertising agency that we were using, which was great, because he said, this is what you're here for.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I was still a clueless 25-year-old.
Yeah.
That needed direction and guidance.
Yeah.
And I thankfully I realised that at that time. I mean, when I was younger, 19, 18, 19, 20 sort of thing, I knew everything.
Yes.
Well, I thought I did. And that's the case with so many people, isn't it? You think that, and as you get older, the more you realise how little you did know at that time.
Yeah, that's I always characterise. At least it seems to be quite a common thing that sort of you go from king shit to king dog shit. And then it's like a rebuild from there.
So anyway, I started working very closely with this with the new CEO, and look, that was great. I learned a lot. He was really tough.
Yeah,
he was certainly very commercial manager. in his approach. He had an amazing business acumen, very intelligent, almost brilliant. But like most brilliant people, they can be deeply flawed as well.
Yes.
And, he had some... I mean, there was times where, he just absolutely tore threads off me.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that sort of before in my life.
Yeah.
Just flying off the handles. There was some anger management issues there, I think. But
so how did you?
That was tough. That was tough to deal with.
So was that with the in an introspective sense? How did you deal with that? Was it like this guy's a jackass, or like, oh, what's wrong with me?
There's probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
Because there's certainly, and I like to sort of look back and I sort of think, well, okay, fair enough. Some of those issues that did occur were my responsibility and my fault to some degree, But so I accepted that. But I guess what it did create some resilience. And that was really important. And I still had my eyes on the bigger picture.
Yep.
Because there was times where, I can remember sometimes going to work and I just didn't want to go. Like I saw his car in the car and I was like, oh, shit, here we go again.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's waiting for me? I was sort of like the whipping boy. I felt like I was a whipping boy at some time, at some stage. But there's other times where, very positive, relationship. And I always knew that I could learn a hell of a lot.
Yep.
And I was learning a hell of a lot. And I knew I needed that.
Yeah.
So, you could take on a minute, they're never going to be perfect. No one's perfect, so, but, it was just one of those things that you just got to make those sacrifices and you've got to put up with it, grit your teeth, get on with it. And obviously to try and improve yourself as much as possible as well and who you are as a person. And so I was really focused on that. It did get to a point, however, after working there with him for about 8 years, where I've just had enough.
Yeah.
But I was in such a better position there to be able to move on, and that was really important as well. It wasn't like I clipped my fingers and said, "Okay, I'm going to go."
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of times that the eye on the bigger prize. So what did that entail? Like, is it like, was it like a financial hygiene thing? Were you like, I'm sorry to pry too deep, but what was the preparation? Like,
so, so basically I'd already started, as I mentioned before, about that doing the university stuff with the tourism degree. I'd already got that. So at that point, and I'd already enrolled and completed another university-based qualification, which was the Graduate Diploma in Business Administration.
Yes.
Plus, I'd had all that experience of working at a high level. I ended up being sort of much too IC at the club. So, and I knew the business. I knew it so well.
Yep.
But I knew the sort of the more higher level sort of understanding of how the business ran as well, and I'd obviously learnt so much from my current manager. So 2 degrees, the advanced diploma, all this experience. If there was ever a time, and I was in my early 30s at that point. I wasn't married at that point, so I didn't have any kids, any sort of commitments there. I had a house.
Yeah.
I'd been able to build up quite a bit of equity in that house. So I was thinking, well, if there was ever a time, this was it.
Yep.
And I needed something more at that point.
Yep.
So there was no doubt it was a search for more meaning. In my career.
Yeah.
Search for more purpose. And I thought it was the time to go out and do it for myself.
Yep.
Throw myself out there.
Yep.
Get out of my comfort zone. Because I'd become quite comfortable where I was. And but also too, I think there was also a part of me that I was becoming someone I didn't really want to become. Because I was being influenced too much, especially by that previous manager.
Yeah, right. So how did you, when did you notice?
Well, I noticed that, probably when I hit 30.
Yeah.
I mean,
What
I
happened?
didn't.
You're like
I
yelling
didn't
at
have
someone,
the.
you're like, shit.
I didn't have the third of a year crisis as I did
Yeah.
at the quarter year crisis.
Yeah.
But it was still a time for thinking.
Yeah.
Where's my career going? What am I
Yeah.
doing with my life? I knew that I was starting to lose some of my patience.
Yeah.
I was starting to have, conversations with people where I was, doing things, saying things that I wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
Making decisions that were more based on what I thought someone else was, thought that I should do.
Yeah.
Instead of decisions that I would make.
Yep.
So, and that's my fault. I'm not certainly blaming anyone else for that. That was my fault. And I made a number of decisions in my career that were wrong. That I look back and say, why did I do that? And I did that because, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I was being too influenced by others.
But also, that's the summation of your life experience at that point, isn't it? It's kind of like best judgment at that time.
Yeah, that's right. See, I've learned from that, bud.
Yeah, yeah.
I learned that, make your own decisions.
Yeah.
Do the research, work hard at understanding the situation, and also take into all perspectives, especially in regards to staffing. And I guess over the years I've learned how to manage staff so much better, I think, and look after them so much better.
Yep.
Where back then it was a little bit different. I was looking after 200 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
For a 28-year-old,
Yeah.
to be responsible for, and I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
So...
was there any pushback because you were so young?
Oh, absolutely. There's always that, yeah. And obviously, too, as I said, that's a factor, obviously, of some of those decisions that I made. I got a lot right.
Yeah.
Not that they were all wrong, but you sort of look back in hindsight. But that's what you do, isn't it? And you learn from those mistakes. You got to make the mistakes.
Yeah.
And you got to make those. And to make mistakes, you got to make decisions.
Yep.
And it's really important to do that.
Yeah.
You got, as I mentioned before, you got to get out of that comfort zone, and that's sort of what that driving force behind me wanting to move on.
Yeah.
Another thing that I did as well was, whilst I was working at the club, I actually got a teaching gig.
Yeah, okay.
I got a teaching gig at CIT, and that was great. I really enjoyed that.
How did that come about?
Well, again, relationships, Andre.
Yeah.
This is why relationships are really important. And, whenever you're sort of leaving somewhere, you always make sure that you leave on good terms. You leave that door open, mate.
Yeah.
Because you never know when you're going to want to walk back through that door,
Yeah.
And but one of the things that I used to do with CIT was, because I was obviously an ex-student, I'd take groups of students through the club.
Yeah, okay.
Show them around, show them the operation, how it worked. And that was great. And I had one of the teachers said, "Oh, Mark, you're great at this. Have you thought about doing some teaching?" And I went, "Oh, no, but yeah, it sounds good."
Yeah.
And he said, "Because I'm going and I need someone to teach this, to help me out. It's just casual.
Yep.
But it can fit probably within what your needs." So anyway, I think 2 days later I was meeting with the head of department.
Yeah, right.
And I was teaching 2 weeks later.
Yeah, right. Did you eventually have to do a TAE or equivalent?
Yeah, I did, mate. Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't start with it.
Yep.
But I got it shortly after. And I got it too because I really enjoyed it, and I saw this as a potential opportunity. For me. Because as I say, if I'm going to be moving on, you've got to have something.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to move on to something. You can't just sort of leave and just go, "Oh, well, let's hope for the best."
Yeah. It's interesting that, just hearing you describe study just seems to be a hygiene factor in your journey. And it's like that was always sort of just ticking in the ground. It's as essential as, I don't know, I guess anything else being responsible in your life.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Yeah. I mean, I guess from a young age, but I mean, at school they always talk about education and the importance of it.
Yeah.
And now we live that, don't we? Now,
Yeah. It's probably a bit more popular these days to look at the outlier school dropouts and stuff like that. You know, Bill Gates dropped out of uni.
Look, you take what you want from it as well. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you'll do in your education studies that might necessarily relate to what you're going to do, but in your career. But you can take what you want from it.
Yep.
You know, that's really important. It's the same as I was mentioning before about talking to people. There's some stuff that you can take that you can really use.
Yeah.
To benefit yourself, career, and so forth. So, I mean, education has been a big part. But so when I it was interesting, and again, this comes back to relationships as well. So when I left, before I left ANZ, I went and saw the head of faculty of at CIT. It just so happens that I had a very good relationship with through football, through AFL.
Yeah, okay.
So that was interesting there as well. So and basically that meeting was, okay, well, what do you need?
Yeah, okay.
Oh no, this is pretty cool. So I was able to sort of say, okay, well, mate, you know, I'm probably going to need about 16 hours to start because I've got some other things that I'm interested in. And I mentioned before how I was interested in marketing. So I wanted to do a little bit of marketing consultancy stuff. So I started up a little business called The Marketing Field. And that was fun. But I didn't want to do hospitality marketing at that time. I wanted to get out and do some different stuff. Yep. And I got a consulting gig with a Homeland Security company, which is pretty cool. I was doing a marketing plan for what was called a casualty simulator, which is basically a bomb simulator, believe it or not, which is called Chasm. Yeah, but that was rather interesting and an eye opener. It was quite big at the time, obviously, for obvious reasons. But so that was a bit of fun. But then the training stuff just took off. Yeah, you know, I mean, I was doing the CIT stuff, but then one of the things that I noticed there was, gosh, there's some demand here, especially from schools, for short-based courses to get them into, you know, a hospitality job. So this
is like your hygiene,
and it was more your bar-based stuff, and also, you know, your RSA and that sort of stuff, RCG as well. So I sort of started thinking, wow, how about that? They actually don't have the facilities to be able to take all these groups. So maybe there's an opportunity here. And it just so happened as I was playing footy with a guy at the time who did a bit of stuff in hospitality training. Anyway, we got talking and stuff, and he had a relationship with a RTO based in New South Wales. I thought, well, that's interesting. So anyway, I went about formulating a training program for schools and, you know, year 11, year 12s. And I came up with the idea of Club Start.
Right. So is that like the genesis for
it is.
What was Hot Start?
Correct. It certainly is. So, but it's called Club Start because of my, obviously, the networks and the experiences that I had in Clubland. So I thought, well, that's a good place to start. And look, I've always been a strong advocate of licensed clubs as well and what they do for the community. You know? So I thought, okay, well, let's do this. So I put that program together. I was able to get quite a bit of funding from the club sector in which to do that. That was really important too because obviously when you go up against a TAFE provider, you know, they were doing a course for $120, $130. It was like a 9-week course. So you can't do that. It's not commercially viable, mate, for a privately owned business. So we needed to get some assistance there, and we had a lot of support from the club sector, which was great. So some other things there I was able to sort of do to make it more beneficial for clubs. But it was basically a recruitment source for them. I'd get the kids in, train them up. We'd be using the club facilities. And the clubs have fantastic facilities. And we would at the completion of those training courses, we'd just get the HR manager of the club come down to interview them.
Yep.
We'd set up these, little 5-minute interviews. That's all you needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. You can probably tell if you want to employ someone within about 30 seconds, really.
Yeah.
But give them 5 minutes. But I spent time preparing the students as well for an interview. That was certainly important and a big part of it too. But so many of them end up getting part-time work, casual work.
Yeah.
I still see them around now.
Yeah.
Some of the students,
Yeah.
So it's a funny thing. The latest joke is that when I go to a bar to get a drink, I'll get refuse service because chances are I did RSA training with that person.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink, by the way.
Yeah.
I just arrived at the establishment, so it is funny. But you meet so many people over the time that obviously go on to work in hospitality. So that was the start, and really that was the start of Access, if you like, because to do the club star stuff, I had to build that relationship with an RTO. I knew nothing about RTOs, registered training organisations, and how to run them. So much regulation and compliance.
Yep.
Gosh. In fact, I'm quite sure it's far more regulated than what the university sector is.
Yep.
And that's probably to do with the amount of private providers, I guess, that's in there. I mean, we're talking about across the country at the moment, there's probably over 4,000 RTOs. That's a lot, So, but I didn't know anything about that. I knew about training, and I really enjoyed training and training delivery, and I was good at it. But running an RTO, so I needed help, and that's important too. You're going to need help along the way. If you're going to be successful, you're going to need some help, and again, that was built on the relationships that I'd created up until that point. So I was able to build that very strong relationship with the Dubbo-based RTO, which was great. And we sort of started doing things here in the ACT. And I worked with the guy that I played footy with, and we worked together for a bit. That didn't really work out.
Yep.
So then I went into a full-on partnership with the New South Wales-based RTO. I knew how the business worked. I knew that I had to learn a lot about RTO regulation and compliance, but I had this other RTO to help me through that. Which was fantastic. Even the basic stuff with our accounts and so forth. That having that assistance there was fantastic too. So I had everything that I needed to be able to run the business and get it going. And that was back in 2008. One of the things that I learnt very early on is if we're going to be doing hospitality training, we need to be doing both front of house and back of house. So at the time it was only front of house, traineeship-based stuff. But I wanted to be all things for hospitality establishments. I wanted to be a one-stop shop, if you like.
Yeah.
So if you need a training, just ring Access.
Yeah.
And whether it's you've got an apprentice chef. You've got someone who needs their RSA course, or a chef needs to update their food safety supervisor qualifications. They need first aid training. Whatever it is, you can ring us. We can arrange that.
Yeah.
But also being there for them when they need stuff. And hospitality, it's always been sort of that just in time sort of industry. And there'll be times where I'll have, clients ring me up and say, "Oh, look, by the way, I've got, ACT health protection here, and they're wanting to see our food safety supervisor certificates. I can't find them.
Yeah.
Can you help?"
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, we'll just go on the system here. Here we are. Yeah, found the certification, get the necessary approvals you need, and off it goes. There you go. Oh, great, thanks, Mark. That's fantastic.
Yep.
And that was a way that we were able to differentiate ourselves from some of our competitors as well. And that was through the systems that we had, our student management systems, our learning management systems. And that's the one thing we invested heavily into.
Yep.
We knew the power of technology.
Yep.
And it's been a big factor of our success.
Yep.
It's improved productivity, efficiency. It's improved engagement. It's improved communication. It's made life so much easier for the people that work at Access.
Yeah.
Our trainers and our assessors, to manage their daily workload.
Yeah.
Give them the best opportunity to do the best job that they can, to perform at their best. And that was always well, it is the job of a manager, isn't it? To give your staff the tools that they need to be able to perform at their best.
Yep.
Remove all the barriers to good performance as you possibly can, and that's so important. And reward them for it when that performance comes through.
Yep.
That's obviously really important.
So do you feel these are lessons that someone in a supervisory or entry level management position out there in industry can apply? Like, so
absolutely.
Yeah. So say you are a duty manager in a club around town or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
What are you saying to them if they're sort of feeling despondent as you were at one point in time?
Absolutely. And I'd say, well, okay, what do you want?
Yep.
Where do you want your career to be? And you've got to start thinking about that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, you don't want to be a duty manager all your life.
Yeah.
You might have hit that at 25.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's next?
Yep.
And we see a lot of people that are just sort of grumbling because they're now 35.
Yep.
Still a duty manager. Well, what have you done about it?
Yes.
And you've done nothing. You've got to do something about it. You've got to plan. You've got to have a plan in place. And that's really important. Then you've got to start working towards that. And a lot of it revolves around education. For me, it revolved around education. We mentioned Pete before. Obviously, it revolved around education for him.
Yep.
He wanted to get out of the kitchen. How is he going to get out of the kitchen? He needs a plan.
Yes.
To get out of the kitchen, It was even harder for Pete because he had a family.
Yeah.
Easier for me. I didn't have that. Didn't have the family at that time.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's hard.
You started having kids once Access was.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was started, and it was starting to hum.
Yeah.
So which was fantastic. The timing was actually great. But going back to this, you got to have that plan, and you got to start to work towards it.
Yep.
And it's going to take you some time. You don't have it overnight.
Yep.
It could take a couple of years. And if you're a 25-year-old, start working on it now.
Yep.
If it takes you 2 years, you're still only 27.
Yes.
But if you sit and do nothing about it until you're 35, well, gosh, you've just wasted.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, the perception of time. I remember, so I went straight out of school into uni and got into an accounting degree and in particular an IT degree, like a double degree that was way over my head at the time. But I was like, man, I don't want to do this for another 3 years. I couldn't imagine doing it for that amount of time. But then 3 years on top of being 18, it's 21. You know what I mean? So it would have been over and done with many moons ago.
Yeah. And I mean, that was sort of going back to my days at the club, and I stuck it out. Yeah. Because I knew that I was getting a benefit out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bloody tough.
Yeah.
And I had to make a lot of sacrifices. But gee whiz, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Because it made me the person that I am. I learnt so much of what to do.
Yeah.
And I learnt so much of what not to do.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah. One thing I would observe is, particularly with you and Pete, you seem like guys that have got naturally itchy feet and natural determination. Is that, am I correct in that assumption?
I think so. I mean, one of the things, we both do this. We both think a lot.
Yeah.
We never stop thinking.
Yeah.
We never stop looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
We never stop thinking about better ways of doing things.
Yeah. And like in that vein, what would you say to someone that's maybe not like that?
Start doing it a bit.
Yeah.
Start opening your eyes to the world.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And what one of the things that we've done, especially when, I mentioned Jordan Peterson before, although he's come about reasonably recent for us, probably in the last, 4 or 5 years, I guess, he's still been a massive influence in that time.
Yeah.
And I think for someone who's younger, he'd be incredibly influential. Because it's all about, his message is all about improving yourself and taking responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
And such an important message. Take responsibility for making your life better.
Yeah.
Stop blaming others.
Yeah.
And say, okay, well, my life's a bit of a mess at the moment.
Yeah.
How can I go about fixing it? And just start small.
Yeah.
little things, because chances are tomorrow's going to be better than today, and it's just going to keep progressively, incrementally getting better. And it's a message of positivity, and we've got so much to be positive about. There's so many opportunities.
Yeah.
Especially when I look at hospitality now.
Yeah,
so many opportunities for people, but you've got to put yourself in that position, be able to take it. You don't want to be thrown into something you're not ready for.
Yep.
I mean, chances are it's probably going to happen, but you want to be able to swim, not sink. So you got to have some idea.
Yep.
Or have a strong mentor, and that's what I had. I had a strong mentor.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to unpack there in terms of, I guess, reasons to be positive about the hospitality industry, because there's the most talk that you see in like media and stuff. It's a lot about headwinds, but obviously there's opportunities and reasons to be positive, and then also mentors. So I guess I don't know. Talk about one of those.
Yeah, look. Generally speaking, in regard to headwinds, I mean, there's always headwinds.
Yep.
One of the things that I wanted to make sure, if I was going to go into business, I wanted to understand it.
Yep.
I wanted to have the skills, have the knowledge, to be able to navigate those very strong headwinds when they hit.
It was really interesting to read Ben Willis from Aubergine. He studied a diploma of business management before cooking.
Yeah, okay.
It was in the Canberra Times. I was reading an article. So
yeah, and he was very successful.
Yeah.
What an amazing business he had. I mean, he was the. Obviously Aubergine was the only Canberra restaurant that had two chef hats for quite some time.
Yeah.
And he's now in the position where he can go on to his next challenge.
Yeah.
He's earned that.
Yeah.
And I've got no doubt that whatever that is going to be very successful.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see, And it's interesting, you look at a restaurant like Aubergine and the great name and reputation that it has in Canberra. I think that our second apprentice, commercial cookery apprentice, was at Aubergine.
Yeah, right.
So it was interesting.
Was that Travis or Sanjeev or something?
Oh, I can't remember who it was now, but it's a long time ago. But when you think about it, we're just going into cookery training. Royal Canberra Golf Club was another one we picked up, one of the first that we picked up. I look back and I think, how did we do that?
Yeah.
But we did that because we had a great reputation at that point, certainly for front of house training. We had Pete obviously on board as well. And
Pete describing it was quite tough because he was sort of a lot of cold calling, just literally beating the pavement.
Absolutely.
How you going?
It's tough, because we started from nothing, and at the time we had so much competition in the market.
Yeah.
Why use us?
Yeah.
So it took some time, but we had to commit to it, and we did commit to it, and that's the case with any business, any small business. You need to reinvest.
Yeah.
That's why business has to make a profit, because you've got to reinvest that money into grow the business, to create new opportunities for the business, to secure its longevity. And as I said to you, it was so important that we not only did front of house but back of house, because it was going to give us credibility as well.
Yep.
And that was really important too. And we said early on, if we're going to be doing cookery, we're going to do it to the best of our ability. We're going to be number one at this.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to be with hospitality. We just want to be number one.
Yeah.
We're just going to do everything we can to work towards that.
Yeah.
We made sure that we used the best resources. We made sure that we had the best people and really invested into our people. We made sure we had the best programs. We made sure that we were able to get as much input from industry that we could to make sure that we had an industry current and relevant program that the industry said, you know what, that's really good.
Yeah.
And we want to get behind that. We want to be involved in that. And as I mentioned there before, the employer was so important, part of that process to make our program work. And they needed to understand what their role and their responsibilities were. And it was a big part of the success. And as we know, the hospitality sector in Canberra is very small. People talk all the time.
Yeah.
So, if you do the wrong thing, you're going to get found out very quickly. Yeah. But on the flip side, you do the right thing, then that word will spread. And word of mouth, a very powerful form of advertising, as we know. So, it just started to grow
Yeah.
and grow and grow. And our program, we kept developing it. We never stood still. And that's what you talk about, the itchy feet. That was, from a business perspective, that's so important. Don't stay still. Always keep moving.
Yep.
It's the same in a restaurant. You're going to keep the same menu for 5 years. I mean, people are saying, well, this is boring.
Yeah.
It's going to keep going, keep moving on elsewhere, So it's continually evolving. It's so important, and we're not talking about massive changes. We're talking about these little small, little incremental changes, and you put them all together, and within 12 months, it's like, holy cow, we've gone from here to here. We didn't even know it.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yep.
It's a massive improvement, and we still do it now. I mean, we're constantly consulting with industry.
Yep.
And it's really given us a competitive advantage because our programs have been so much shaped by industry, and that's what they want.
Yep.
And you look at training packages, and unfortunately, training packages are always going to be out of date. They're always going to be behind.
Yep.
Because they'll be working on a training package, they'll get what they want, then it will go through the approval process. That approval process can take years.
Yep.
And that's a big complaint with the whole process, is the length of time it takes.
Yes.
So by the time that's actually approved and released, and the RTOs go through that process of teaching out the old qualifications, it's suddenly 3 years down the track.
Yeah.
It's out of date again.
Yes.
So making sure that how we're delivering it and making sure that it's current. It's what industry want, what industry need is so important. Yeah, it's stuff that you have to do. Yeah, absolutely. But it's more focus on all these changes, and especially technology and the impact that's had.
Yes.
On business. So yeah. Next question, mate.
If we could bring it back to the mentors. So obviously,
okay, great.
Probably one of the most massive tools that you can have, I guess, in any career, right, or any pursuit in life, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And look, I've got no doubt that I would not be here without having strong mentors.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, it's
So who were some of the main ones, and what?
Look, the main one for me was obviously that previous manager.
Yes.
Who, I look back and yes, it was some really tough times.
Yeah.
It was difficult. I mean, certainly from a psychological perspective at times, I just felt beaten up at times and deflated, but other times I felt like, you know what, I've got a real future here, and I'm learning, I'm feeling great. I was really positive, But I mean, I've always been a positive person anyway.
Yes.
That's really important. Glass is half full, not half empty, but and I guess the key was over that time that I had, and I spent a good 8 years. I was able to sort of work out over that time the stuff that I wanted to take. Yes. And the stuff that I didn't want to.
Yep.
The stuff that where I could be the new improved version.
Yep.
And so I mean, I guess I was just lucky that I was in that position to be able to have a mentor. Yep. Sometimes it might be more difficult for people to find that. But you got to keep searching for it. It's really important because you can learn so much. And I mean, I've learned so much more from mentors than what I've learned from university education. Yeah.
So, I mean, is there a particular lesson or learning that sticks out?
I think early on, it was a bit of tough love, and I needed that tough love. It was the grow the hell up. Yeah. It was get yourself organised. Take control of your life. Take responsibility for your life. A very early message that I got. Switch on. Yep. This is what it takes. And so I needed that message at that time. So timing was probably perfect for me. Yep. But there was, as I said, I mean, I stuck with it. That's the point. Yep. And we mentioned that before, didn't we? You've got to have that patience. You've got you got to stick with it.
So
And that's tough to do that. You got to have that stickability. I mean, that's and that resilience.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's. I mean, I do feel that sometimes, and looking at some of the younger people that we deal with in our business, some of our students, that they probably throw in the towel a bit too early.
Yep.
You know, and a lot of the time it's to their disadvantage and their detriment.
Yep.
It's just because they feel a bit uncomfortable with that position that they're in, or they don't like that particular person, or other people within the organisation.
Yeah.
They're focusing their attention on that instead of focusing their attention on themselves
Yeah.
and what they can do to improve themselves.
Yeah.
And improve their career and their career prospects. And especially if you want to commit to hospitality, you know, there's going to be times where you want to throw the towel in.
Yes.
You know, absolutely. And this is all too hard. But you got to find a way. You got to stay positive. I think a positive mindset is so important.
Yep.
And I mean, I think I naturally probably had that as well.
Yep.
But yeah, look.
So was it an active? Was it an active pursuit to? I guess because how I would characterize your leadership or management is making people realize or do things without actively saying do this. If that's like
no, absolutely. It's empowering. It's empowering people, mate.
Yeah, cool. Well,
so
whereas
important.
it sounded like your mentor was a bit more like
a
bit more overt with his
absolutely
with his lessons there.
Yeah, absolutely. But that, I mean, I probably needed that too.
Yes.
And there's probably times within, I guess my time here at Access where I've had to probably micromanage a little.
Yeah.
But I'll only be willing to do that for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before, and I wanted people that could accept responsibility.
Yeah.
I wanted people that.
Because I would say the same of myself. Like I needed to be told to grow up and things
absolutely.
like that. But
Mate, we all did.
But I think I've only overtly been told something in that vein from you like once in 8 years. The whole time. The rest was all stuff you're like, oh, okay, I get it. You know, with things that were happening around me or the way other people were acting and things like that. And
so I've wanted to be able to create an environment here where people could flourish.
Yeah.
You know, if people could see that they had a career here.
Yep.
And that they had prospects.
Yep.
To go further, but also to be in a position where they had autonomy, they had opportunity to have a big influence on the business, but have a big influence on the people that they teach. And that's really important. It's one of the reasons why a lot of us got into the teaching as well, because you've got that opportunity to have a really positive influence on someone's life.
How in a hospitality situation, how would you balance the idea of autonomy with the standardization required of a certain establishment? You know what I mean? Because if autonomy, then you do whatever you want. All of a sudden, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. There's still things. I mean, they've still got to follow procedures, but there's other things that they can. I mean, when you look at customer service and those interactions that you have with customers, there's lots of opportunity there.
Yes.
For autonomy.
Yep.
You know, for you to provide that little bit extra. You know, and that's where hospitality establishments can really differentiate themselves. But for a staff member to want to do that, they've got to be happy in their workplace as well. You know, it's the same with anything. I mean, you want to get the best performance out of somebody, they've got to really want to work for that organisation. And work for that person, and want to be able to do those extra things. And don't have to be much with customer service, but there's a great opportunity there to do that little bit extra. You know. And I mean, I guess that was one of my focus. I mean, I did a lot of hospitality education when I was young, so we spoke about this. You know, I was able to go straight to work, and I was able to apply what I'd learned. And do those little extra things, and it meant so much to people. I mean, I left the club. What? Gee whiz. 17 years ago,
Yep.
I still run into people that were members there,
Yeah. Okay.
and they still remember my name.
Yep.
A lot of the time, I still remember theirs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you create these. I mean, they're almost like friendships, you know, and you see them and you have a chat. It's just like, oh, I could be back working at the club, you know.
Yeah.
Just having a chat with them. That was I guess that was the country way as well. That's just what you do.
Yeah.
You know, and it was no different in a working sort of situation, and I think customers really appreciated that.
Yeah.
You know, so but I mean, as you move through the ranks, there's more opportunity, isn't it, to add your own influence into a business. You know, it's not until you own it till you can really really have the most influence, obviously. But I've always taken the view too that you know, with Access, it's not just me; it's every single person that works here is a very important part of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
You know, and they have all got amazing things to add, and that's why, you know, the selection of staff has been such an important thing. But also the environment that I create for them to perform at their best. I mean, that's and you got to feel that. You got to feel that you are important, and you got to feel that you're making a difference and a positive difference. I mean, you look what we're doing now. I mean, who would have thought that, you know, we'd be sitting down doing podcast-based stuff?
Yeah.
You know? But I see this as just a natural extension of what we do.
Yep.
Because what we're trying to do is have these conversations with people that have been there, done that, trying to draw from that, well, is there anything there that I can apply to my life, to my professional life, my personal life, you know, that can make my life better, that can help me, you know, move forward. And obviously that's a really, really important thing. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, you might completely dislike me. Okay, that's great, but there might be something in what I say that might help you. Yeah, you know, and so I mean, and where I am now. I mean, I look at, especially in the last 5 years, that my eyes have been open to the world. I've become a prolific reader. Yeah, I never used to read. I hate reading. You know. Yeah. I'd read what I had to read. You know, now it's just like, well, what's going to be my next book? You know? Or what's the next podcast I'm gonna listen to? You know, you get a real appetite once you start doing it. You know, and I certainly encourage, you know, especially young people, to get out there, read as much as you can, take in as much information as you can. You know, from either side of, especially arguments, either side of the arguments, you know, you want to be in a situation where you can make decisions. But to make decisions, you've got to be informed. You know, and there's, you know, when you look at someone's career, I mean, there's no one answer, is there? Everyone's different. So you've got to work it out yourself. How do you put yourself in a position to be able to make those decisions, very important decisions about your life and where it's going to go? It's only you that can make them.
So one thing is, I guess, the hospitality lifestyle, or I guess young person lifestyle as well. So I'd imagine you enjoyed partying and stuff when you were young. And so and I guess hospitality is notorious for, you know, big party time. So were you exposed to much of that? And I guess, how did you reconcile or manage that through you know, through, I guess, what's been largely a quite responsible progression in life?
Well, I think I got it all out of the way early on, but absolutely, it's easy to get caught up in the hospitality life. You know, because, and everyone that goes into hospitality, generally speaking, is that same sort of person. So when you get together, you have fun, you know, and so it's not uncommon for me, you know, to finish a shift. When I was younger, you finish a shift at 3 o'clock in the morning. You'd head out. You know, you get home at 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, there was times there where, you know, if it was a Thursday night or sometimes a Monday night, Yeah, Monday night was always hospitality night.
Yeah.
So you get the cheaper drinks and so forth, but you get home so late. But then you'd have to get up to go to school,
Yeah.
go to study. That was always a bit tough. And then you might get home in the afternoon and enough time to have maybe a quick afternoon siesta for an hour, and then back to work, do it again. And
Yeah. So
there was no doubt I was burning the candle at both ends at times.
Yeah.
No doubt that I drank way too much.
Yeah.
When I was younger.
Yeah.
You only sort of realise that as you get older. You sort of think back, well, what impact has that had on me?
Yeah.
Probably has had an impact. I mean, obviously, I teach RSA, so I understand the impact alcohol has on your body, in particular your brain.
Yeah.
There's in Australia. I mean, there's probably a couple of 100,000 people that are currently living with alcohol-induced brain damage. Am I one of them? Don't know.
Yeah.
Possibly,
Yeah.
but yes. What I know now. Would I have drunk as much when I was younger? Probably not. Or probably I would have.
Yeah.
Wouldn't listen.
Yeah. So was it a thing that like it just got a bit old, or your priorities
I just got older, mate.
changed?
I got older.
Yeah.
I got older, got wiser,
Yeah.
and it was in my late 20s that I started to sort of ease back a bit.
Yep.
But it wasn't until probably I got married that it really changed.
Yes. Yeah.
There's another thing there as well, was that I was into marketing, and having the role of marketing manager for, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years, and in that time, you're buying all the advertising, you're doing all this sort of stuff, so you're dealing with a lot of external, like TV networks and other publications and so forth. So you're forever getting invited to things. So if there's an event coming to town, I'd get an invite to that event, whatever it was, whether it was a music band or whether there was races coming up or whatever it was. I mean, I've been away. I've been to AFL Grand Finals. I've been to Australian Opens and all this sort of stuff. Just part of my job. But they always involve drinking and eating. Yeah. And being single at the time was like there was no restrictions.
Yeah.
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 I didn't have to answer to anyone but myself. And it's fun. It can get out of hand.
Yeah.
It probably did on times. At times it probably did get out of hand. But thankfully, I sort of got to the age where I needed to bring that back, and I understood that. But it took a little while.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit too long. But,
Yeah.
but I certainly had fun along the way.
Yeah.
Because
I guess it's important to, right?
It's absolutely, it is. But when I look at, when the amount of alcohol certainly that I consume, as I said, I consume way too much, and most of the regrets that you have in your life revolve around alcohol consumption. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
So did I drink too much? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I understand. You understand that now.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it, can I?
Yeah.
At this point.
Yes.
It's all about moving forward.
Yep.
And that's the key. That's the key message for young people too. It's stumble uphill. You're going to make mistakes.
Yep.
I've made plenty. Learn from them. And move on. Got to keep going forward. That's so important. And life's going to throw you some pretty shitty cards at times, isn't it?
Yeah.
It does that, and as Rocky Balboa said, mate, Sylvester, life's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
It can be pretty tough at times.
Yeah.
And it's great. Actually, he goes on to say that it's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can take a hit.
Yeah.
And keep moving.
What's that other movie that he did? The one with the arm wrestling one. The world doesn't meet anyone halfway. Over the top.
So, and this is, again, the stuff that you stumble on.
Yeah.
Whether it's movies or through a podcast. I mean, we hear, the one that we show now when we were doing the Hot Start program, actually. It was a clip from, it was a US Admiral called, what was his name? William H. McRaven.
Yeah.
Good US military man name. He was a Navy officer. But his big thing was make your bed.
Yeah, right.
That's how he started. And it was an address that he was giving to a graduating class, I think from University of Texas or something. And but it started off by saying, make your bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Because you've achieved something. It's the first thing you've achieved something. It's the first task, and then that might encourage you to do some more tasks.
Yeah.
Which might go on to cleaning your room. And JP talks about cleaning your room, getting your life in order.
Yeah.
Before you start criticising the world or how shitty the world might be for you, is your life in order? Have you got your life in order first?
Yeah. Yeah, I must say, like that sort of expanding locus of control is, that was my hospitality experience. I was largely not out of control, but wasn't in control of much when I started. And it's that sort of thing, you get into a job where, maybe the entry level requirements aren't so difficult, but you get good at this small thing. You move on to the next thing, and then before you know it, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. And
absolutely, mate.
And and eventually becomes a really meaningful career.
And look, that's what really we've done at Access. If you think about it, we started small. We just started doing traineeship based stuff, Cert 3 level. That's all we did.
Yeah.
Let's expand that.
Yeah.
Let's grow that to Cert 4. Let's go higher. And then that required that, we got people that had those skills, had those qualifications as well to deliver that, and had the experiences.
Yeah.
That's really important too, at that level.
Yeah.
It was hard to find people to do that, Let's move into back of house now.
Yeah.
Big step for us, massive step for us. Let's move into online.
Yep.
Like we went into online learning probably in 2012. Okay, we were basically forced into it because the ACT were just about to go to compulsory RSA.
Yeah, okay.
And we had these providers from interstate providers that had these online courses, and they were going to come in and take everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
We need to move on this, and we need to move now.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the advantages too of small business. You can move on a dime, can't you?
Yeah.
And it's really important. You see the opportunity, and you gotta prepare yourself for it. So we're able to do that. We're able to find ourselves a learning management system that we could, and content. We had to spend time in tailoring that content to ACT legislation.
Yep.
But we did that just in time.
Yeah. Yep.
Just in time. So basically, we went from 0 online enrolments to 250 in the first week.
Yeah, okay.
And we'd never done online learning before.
Yeah.
Baptism of fire, mate. And of course, we had some technical issues.
Yep.
But I was, certainly burning the midnight oil over that time. And we'd have people that were enrolling, at midnight. They get home from doing a hospitality shift. They need their RSA. Something might go wrong. They'd send a message. And I was...
So you used to reply in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
I guess you have to do those things in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning. Yeah. I had the computer beside my bed.
Yeah, right.
I'd hear the message come in.
Yeah.
I didn't get a lot of sleep over that time. But we were able to iron out those issues, within the first sort of month or so.
Yeah.
So it was short-lived, but it was important that I did that because when you especially, and I learnt this very quickly in the online world, it has to be instant. And if it's not, people get very agitated.
Yeah.
Some of the emails that we got from people.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Vitriol in them.
Yeah.
Anger.
Yeah.
And the accusations, just like, you're a dodgy company from the subcontinent or something, are you? It's like, no,
and
actually,
racist.
We're actually, that's right. And I was like, actually, we're based in Canberra.
Yeah.
Sure, you're in Canberra. No, we're in Canberra. And then well, how come you're responding to me at 2 o'clock in the morning? I'm in Canberra. I might be in my pajamas, but I'm in Canberra. But we managed to get there, and our online systems now have become very good. And we're still the only provider here in the ACT that provides ACT-specific content courses.
Yep.
For the industry.
Yeah.
You know, and I think too that when somebody's searching for online to do it online, when they see that you're Canberra-based, we might cost a little bit more, but people like that.
Yep.
You know, it just eases their concerns a bit. Well, something goes wrong, at least they're Canberra-based.
Yep.
And people like to support Canberra business as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's important too. But so yeah, you know, the online stuff, that was baptism of fire. But we were able to, and this is the thing too. This is another important message, is that you can get through it.
Yeah.
You know, there's tough times. And you think, holy cow.
I guess the last couple of years have been an exercise in all of that, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, mate. So for everyone in the industry.
Yeah.
You know, and this is important, you know, when we talk about finding meaning and purpose, yeah? Because the whole point of that is to sustain you through tough times.
Yeah.
We got lucky during COVID. It just seemed like our business we'd put ourselves in a very good position to be able to help the industry through obviously the COVID issues in regards to continuing on the training.
Yeah.
You know, it was really important that we did that. But we were there, you know, ready to go, to continue on. Nothing needed to change.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the online systems in place. We've got the communication channels in place. We were certainly in a better position than most to be able to continue that very close engagement and progression of our students during that period.
Yeah.
That was obviously so important, you know, to be able to do that. And not many providers were able to do that.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, your bigger TAFE-based colleges. It was tough for them.
So what are our plans for the future? Or what?
Mate, lots of plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of plans. I mean, we want to look at New South Wales as an opportunity to do what we do there. I mean, obviously we've always committed to the ACT, but the business is growing, you know, and we need to sort of look and expand our horizons outside of the ACT. And you know, the capital region is the obvious. You know, it's nice and close.
Yeah.
There's lots of hospitality-based places around, and I think there's a lot of benefits that could benefit from our mode of delivery when it comes to how we train, you know. So New South Wales has been a bit of a closed shop in the past.
Yep.
I get the feeling that they're starting to open things up.
Yep.
And why shouldn't they, especially for an ACT-based RTA? Encapsulated in New South Wales.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be seen as an established New South Wales RTO anyway.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Because we're here, you know. But the thing is that in training, and it's the case with a lot of other industries as well, every state and territory approaches it differently. There's different levels of funding. There's different ways, different compliance requirements and regulations, and so you got to get your head around all that and ways to deal with the government. I mean, everything's different, or whether we're just different here in the ACT. I don't know. But so that's something that's got a lot of potential, I think. Another thing that's got a lot of potential is to move towards the training of international students.
Yep.
That's certainly a very big undertaking because there's new registration that you need, which is called CRICOS registration.
Yeah.
And so that's in addition to your RTO-based registration that you have. So another layer of regulation and
it was really
compliance
interesting
got to deal with.
The things like that are actually quite a crucial component of keeping the country ticking because I was doing some reading on fertility rates, and Australia hasn't had an internally refreshing fertility rate since the 60s. 1965 was the last time we were at 2.1.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
it's random. Sorry, popped in my head.
But I mean, there's no doubt that that's one of the reasons why the labour market is so tight at the moment. We don't have people.
Yeah.
We need to bring them in. But Australia has always been that country has always been a big migrant-based country.
Yeah.
We bring people in because we have to. That's where the population growth is going to come from.
Yeah.
And that's where the people are going to come from to fill the jobs.
Yeah.
And we can be part of that solution, can't we?
Yeah.
Especially hospitality, and I think that we are absolutely screaming, aren't we, for people to go in, especially into cookery.
Yeah.
To find chefs. So if we can bring people in, train them up, get them into industry here in the ACT in particular, I think there's going to be huge demand for that and huge benefit for the sector.
Yep. So will it be like I guess same format of training?
No, it'll need to be a bit different.
Yep.
We'll need to have our own facility.
Yep.
So it's a massive investment for us.
Yeah.
A massive investment. And I mean, there's a fair bit of risk associated with it. Mm-hmm. There's risk in regards to, compliance regimes of governments, intentions of governments.
Yep.
Certainly in regard to immigration policy as well. So you're at the whim of government policy.
Yeah.
You're at the whim of people in powerful positions putting a red pen through something, through a line of, say, hospitality workers, that suddenly means that your business model is out the window.
Yeah.
That can happen.
Yeah.
There's always risk, isn't there, in business and everything that you undertake, and you've got to try and manage it the best way that you can. I mean, look,
it reminds me another one of the lessons that you say is back yourself.
You got to back yourself. Absolutely, and you'll find a way.
Yeah.
But it can be tough, and there's external factors that can wipe you out.
Yeah.
But you got to keep moving forward. Find another way. And we've done that. We've done that successfully for the last sort of 12, 13 years. I guess I'm from a farming community originally. I didn't grow up on the land, but one of the biggest factors that can contribute to the success in a farm enterprise is the weather.
Yeah.
You got no control over that.
Yeah.
Now obviously I mentioned before they're experiencing floods. It's like bloody hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, no control over that either. So we've got, for us, it's government regulation.
Yep.
And that can have an impact. But and certainly that, quite some time ago, there used to be a path from a student visa to permanent residency.
Yep.
And all the education providers loved it, obviously, because you had students coming out because they wanted to stay in Australia because it's an amazing country.
Yeah.
Fantastic place to live.
Yeah.
We hear a lot of negative stuff all the time, but there's never been a better time to live.
Yeah.
I always say to young people, there's never been a better time to be a young person. There's so many opportunity. Yes, you've got some challenges there, but every generation has had their challenges, but overall, gee whiz, things are so positive. Things are great. There's a lot of opportunity, huge amount of opportunity. So, this is what I guess I really look forward to in regards to the international based education. We're going to have students coming over here, which they're so excited about this new opportunity they've been provided with.
Yep.
And they want to work hard. They want to learn as much as they can. They want to get in and start working.
Yep.
And contribute.
And I guess there's benefits, like societal benefits, I guess, looking, with the I guess the cultural diversity that'll come along with all this sort of stuff. So.
It just adds to what we've already got here. You go anywhere and you look at you could just go to a mall, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And you go to the food court. What do you see?
Everything.
You got all these amazing options, from all corners of the world.
Yeah.
That's Australia. It's so culturally rich, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we all get along together really well, considering.
Yeah.
Which is a few flare-ups in the past, but overall, it's we're a very tolerant society.
Yeah.
And I hope that tolerance continues. We don't sort of end up, like America, which is very polarised along political lines. We don't want that in Australia.
Yeah.
It's always been a bit taboo, isn't it, to talk politics or religion?
Yes.
We should continue that, maintain that. Don't talk about that.
Yeah.
just creates problems. But tolerance is so important when you've got people with all different views.
Yeah. Well,
And when we talk about diversity, that's the most important part of diversity is that diversity of views.
Yeah.
Viewpoint
that
diversity,
stuff's
very
even
important.
built into vocational qualifications, right? I mean, we've got units that cover that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And all that sort of thing, and how you can implement them in your day-to-day job and management and things like that.
Absolutely. But I mean, I always bring it back to the individual level. And that's really important. I mean, and that's, I guess, one of the benefits with us having a small business. I mean, there's there's probably about 10 of us. So that gives you an opportunity as a manager to really work one-on-one with people individually to find out what works.
Yeah.
And build that flexibility into your overall, whether it's your overall, remuneration package or whatever it is, you've got that and that ability to do that and build that very close relationship.
Yeah.
A lot harder when you're a bigger enterprise.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot harder, and that's something why as you grow, it creates more challenges for you. But what will never change is, especially with what we do, is the relationship that the people that are out on the street, training our trainees and apprentices, communicating with our employers, the importance that they have to the success of the business.
Yeah.
Incredibly important.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we might wrap it up there, Mark. We've got a compliance officer that's keen to go to IKEA today. So.
Well, mate, this is could be seen as episode 1 for me.
Yeah.
I could, if it works out, mate, you can invite me back.
Well, I think, I would actually now that you mention it, like just a bit of a current events show, like what's going on, and have a yarn, get Pete on the mouth from the south, and
it's interesting. We've been talking, I don't know, for an hour or whatever, but I just feel that we've only just touched the surfaces of a number of things.
Yeah,
that you could explore further, and that's the great thing about this long form conversation, because there's a lot of things that require a lot of explanation.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things in life. It's unpacking ideas, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
And
it's been fun, Andre. I've enjoyed it, mate.
It's been heaps of fun. Thank you very much for your time, and
you're welcome, mate.
And we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you,
mate.
sir.